My fiancée demanded. Stop sending money to your parents. They should have saved better. My parents were refugees who'd given everything for my education. I said, I'll consider it. Then I increased their monthly support, put in writing, and ended the engagement. When she saw the automatic transfer I'd set up in perpetuity, original post, I, 30 male, am the son of refugees. My parents came to this country in 1991 with 2 suitcases, no English, and me, 3 years old, wrapped in a blanket my grandmother made that still sits on their couch. My dad had been an engineer back home. Here, he worked at a meatpacking plant for 4 years before getting a job as a maintenance technician at a hotel chain. My mom cleaned houses. Then she cleaned offices. Then she cleaned hospital rooms on the night shift so she could be home when I got off the school bus. They never complained. Not once. Not about the cold. Not about the language barrier. Not about the customers who talked slow and loud at them like volume was a translator. They just worked. And every spare dollar went into 2 things: rent and my education. I got a scholarship to a state school. Partial, not full. My parents covered the gap. I don't know how. I honestly don't know how 2 people making a combined $58,000 a year managed to put a kid through college with 0 debt and still keep the lights on. But they did. My dad once told me he didn't buy a new pair of work boots for 3 years so they could pay my sophomore year housing deposit. 3 years. Same boots. Resold twice. I graduated, got into software engineering, worked my way up. I'm a senior developer now, making $142,000 a year. Not wealthy, but comfortable. Very comfortable compared to where I started. Since my first real paycheck, I've sent my parents $1,500 a month. Every month. No exceptions. It started at $800 when I was making less and went up as I earned more. They didn't ask for it. I insisted. My dad tried to refuse it the first 3 months. He'd deposit it back into my account. So I set up an automatic transfer to my mom's account instead because I knew she wouldn't send it back. She'd just quietly use it to fix the things my dad was too proud to admit needed fixing. New water heater. Dental work he'd been putting off. Property taxes. They're in their mid-60s now. My dad retired last year because his knees finally gave out. My mom still works part-time, but she's slowing down. They own their little house outright, paid it off in 2019, but their savings are thin. Social Security covers basics. My $1,500 covers everything else. It's the least I can do. Literally, the mathematical least. If I could do more, I would. Now, my fiancée. Together 2.5 years. Engaged for 3 months. She works in pharmaceutical sales. Makes good money. Around $95,000 with commissions. She's smart, driven, comes from a solidly upper-middle-class family. Her parents paid for her college, her car, and the down payment on her condo. She's never wanted for anything, which isn't a criticism. It's just a fact that becomes relevant. She knew about the monthly transfer from early in the relationship. I told her on maybe our 4th date because I believe in transparency about money when things are getting serious. She said she thought it was sweet. That was the word. Sweet. Fast forward to 3 months ago. We got engaged. Started talking about combining finances for the wedding, future house, timeline for kids. Normal engaged couple stuff. I showed her my full budget breakdown because she asked. Income, expenses, savings rate, investments, the monthly transfer. She looked at the spreadsheet. Yeah, I keep a spreadsheet. I'm an engineer, that's what we do, and pointed at the $1,500 line item. Her, so this just goes on forever? Me, yes. Her, even after we're married? Me, especially after we're married. My income will be higher. I'll probably increase it. Her, that's $18,000 a year. Me, I'm aware. Her, that could go toward our house fund, or a vacation, or kids' college savings. Me, we'll fund all of those things too. I'll make enough. She dropped it that night, but she didn't drop it. Over the next few weeks, it came up sideways. Little comments. Must be nice to have someone just hand you money every month. My parents save for their own retirement. Just saying, do they really need $1,500? That seems like a lot for 2 people. I'll let it slide. I shouldn't have, but I did. Because I loved her, and I thought she'd come around once she understood the full picture. She did not come around. 3 weeks ago, we were going over wedding catering estimates. $87 per head, 140 guests, you do the math, and she brought it up again. But this time she didn't hint. She came straight out with it. I think you need to stop sending money to your parents. Or at least cut it in half. They should have saved better. It's not our responsibility to fund their retirement. I put the catering binder down. They didn't have anything to save. They were refugees. They spent everything on me. That was their choice. Parents are supposed to provide for their kids. You don't owe them money for doing what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to work 18-hour days so I could go to college debt-free. They were supposed to skip dental care so I could have textbooks. You're being dramatic. Lots of people struggle. That doesn't mean their kids have to bankroll them for life. I sat there for a good 30 seconds. She was looking at me like she just made a perfectly reasonable argument about splitting the water bill. I'll consider it. That's what I said. I'll consider it. Because I needed time, not to consider her request. I already knew the answer to that. I needed time to consider what her request meant about who she was and whether I could marry someone who thought my parents should have saved better when they were breaking their bodies to give me a future. I considered it for exactly 1 week. During that week, I did 3 things. First, I called my financial advisor. Not a fancy one, a fee-only guy I found through my company's benefits program. I told him I wanted to set up an irrevocable automatic transfer. $2,000 a month, indexed to inflation annually from a dedicated account that I'd keep funded. He set it up so the transfer would continue even if something happened to me. It was tied to a small trust-like structure that would keep paying from a funded account for a defined period. Cost me $400 in setup fees. Worth every penny. Second, I moved my personal savings, not our shared wedding fund, my personal savings that predated the relationship, into the account funding the trust. About $34,000. Enough to keep the transfers going for over a year, even if I somehow lost my income. Third, I called my parents and told them I was increasing the monthly support to $2,000 starting immediately. My dad argued for 11 minutes. My mom cried. I told them it was happening whether they liked it or not, and my dad finally said, in his accented English that still cracks a little on hard consonants, "You are a good son. We don't deserve this." And I said, "You deserve more. This is what I can do." Then I called my fiancée and asked her to come over. Saturday afternoon. She showed up in a good mood. She'd been to brunch with her friends. She had shopping bags. She kissed me at the door and said, "So did you think about what we discussed?" I did. "Sit down." She sat at the kitchen table. I stayed standing. Not for dramatic effect. I just couldn't sit. I'm not reducing the payments to my parents. I've increased them. It's now $2,000 a month, set up through a trust structure, so it continues regardless of my circumstances. It's done. It's not a discussion. Her face went through about 4 expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, anger, and something cold I'd never seen before. You increased it? After I specifically asked you to stop? You asked me to consider it. I considered it. This is my decision. That's $24,000 a year now. Are you serious? That's a down payment. That's daycare. It's also less than 17% of my gross income. We can afford everything else comfortably. We can't afford anything because you keep giving our money away. It's my money. From my income. We're not married. We don't have combined finances. And even if we did, this wouldn't change. So my opinion means nothing? Your opinion was noted. My decision was made. She stood up, pacing now, hands in her hair. You chose them over me. I chose to keep my commitment to the 2 people who sacrificed everything so I could be in a position to have this conversation at all. If that's choosing them over you, then yes. I can't believe this. I literally cannot believe this. There's one more thing. I think we should end the engagement. And the room just stopped. Update 1, 6 days later. She didn't scream. I was expecting screaming. Instead, she stood there for about 15 seconds, perfectly still, and then said in this very controlled voice, "You're not serious." I am. Over $2,000 a month to your parents. over you asking me to abandon them and calling it financial planning. Her, I didn't say abandon. I said be reasonable. Me, you said they should have saved better. They came here with nothing. They had nothing to save. And you said it like it was their fault. Her, you're putting words in my. Me, you said parents are supposed to provide for their kids like feeding and educating me was just the standard package and they don't deserve gratitude for it. My dad didn't buy boots for 3 years. My mom cleaned hospital bathrooms at 2 a.m. That wasn't the standard package. That was 2 people pouring themselves empty so I could be full. She sat back down. I could see her recalibrating, switching strategies. She went soft. Her, baby, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I just want us to have a good future. I wasn't attacking your parents. Me, you told me they should have saved better. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a worldview. Her, so you're going to throw away 2.5 years over a disagreement about money? Me, it's not about money. It's about the fact that you looked at 2 people who lost their country, rebuilt from nothing, and gave me everything. And your response was they should have planned better. That tells me something about you that I can't unsee. She took the ring off, set it on the table, looked me dead in the eye. Her, you're making a mistake. Me, maybe, but I'm keeping my parents. She left. Now here's where it gets complicated. Because ending an engagement isn't just a conversation. It's a web of logistics, social dynamics, and other people's opinions. By Sunday evening, her mother had called me twice. I didn't answer. She left one voicemail that I did listen to. Her mom, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but my daughter is devastated. We've already put deposits down for the venue and the florist. You owe us an explanation, and you owe us those deposits back. Call me. The deposits, right? So here's the financial breakdown. We'd booked a venue, $3,500 deposit, paid from our joint wedding fund that we'd both contributed to equally. Florist deposit, $800, also from the joint fund. Photographer deposit, $600, same. The joint wedding fund had a total of $9,200 in it, funded 50/50ths. I told her through text that I'd forfeit my half of the joint fund, $4,600, and she could keep the entire amount to recover the deposits. I wasn't going to fight over wedding money for a wedding that wasn't happening. She didn't respond to that text. Monday at work, I got an email from her to my work email address. Subject line, we need to talk about your financial obligations. She'd sent me a bullet-pointed list of shared expenses and investments she felt I owed her for. Dinners, trips, gifts, a weekend getaway she'd paid for on my birthday. She had amounts next to each one. The total at the bottom, $6,340. She wanted me to pay her $6,340 for things that happened during a relationship. Dinners we shared, trips we took together, gifts she chose to give me. I forwarded the email to my personal account, didn't respond, and kept working. Tuesday, she escalated differently. She started calling my friends. Not mutual friends, my friends. My college roommate told me she'd called him asking if I was going through something and whether I'd been acting strange. My coworker, the one who sits 2 desks from me, got a text from an unknown number asking if I'd seemed unstable at work lately. She was trying to build a narrative that I was having some kind of breakdown, that the breakup wasn't rational, that something was wrong with me. Wednesday morning, I got another call from her mother. This time I answered because I wanted to end it cleanly. Her mom, she is broken, absolutely broken. Do you understand what you've done? Me, ma'am, I ended an engagement because of a fundamental incompatibility. I've offered her the entire wedding fund. I'm not sure what else I can do. Her mom, fundamental incompatibility? She asked you to be smart with money. That's what wives do. Me, she asked me to cut off my elderly refugee parents. That's not financial planning. That's cruelty. Her mom, oh, here we go with the refugee thing. Everyone has a sob story. My parents were poor too. You don't see me demanding my husband send them checks. And there it was. The refugee thing, like my parents' entire life trajectory, was a rhetorical device I was using to win an argument. Like fleeing a war zone and rebuilding in a foreign country was just a sob story, equivalent to whatever version of middle-class inconvenience she experienced. Me, I think this conversation is over. I wish your family well. Her mom, You're a selfish, ungrateful. I hung up, blocked the number. Done. Update 2. 10 days later. All right. Last update. I think, after blocking her mom, I figured things would cool down. For about 3 days, they did. No calls, no texts, no emails to my work address. Quiet. Then Thursday evening, I got a call from my dad. My dad never calls in the evening because he goes to bed at 8:30, old habit from decades of early shifts. My dad. Someone called your mother today. Me who? My dad. A woman. She said she was your fiancée. She told your mother that you were in financial trouble, that you had debt you were hiding from us. She said the money you send us is money you can't afford, and we were being selfish by taking it. I had to sit down. My dad. Your mother was upset. She asked me if it was true. I told her our son would never lie to us. Me. Dad, none of that is true. I have zero debt. My savings are healthy. The $2,000 a month is something I can easily afford. She's my ex-fiancée. I ended the engagement, and she's angry. My dad, why did you end it? I hadn't told them. The reason. I just said it didn't work out because I didn't want them to feel guilty. Me. Because she asked me to stop sending you money and said you should have saved better. Silence. A long one. I could hear the TV in the background. My mom watches her shows at this hour. My dad. She said this about us? Me. Yes. My dad. And you ended it because of this? Me. It was one of the reasons. The biggest one. Another pause. My dad. You should not have done that for us. We would have understood. Me. I didn't do it for you. I did it because someone who says that about you isn't someone I can build a life with. My dad got quiet. I heard him clear his throat. Then he said, very softly, come for dinner Sunday. Your mother is making the stew. That's my dad's love language. No speeches. No dramatic declarations. Just come for dinner. I said I'd be there. Friday morning, I made a decision. I called a lawyer. Not a fancy one, a family law attorney my financial advisor recommended. $250 for a consultation. I explained the situation. Ex-fiancée had contacted my parents to cause distress, had emailed my work address with financial demands, and had called my friends implying I was mentally unstable. The lawyer was practical. He said the contact with my parents and friends could potentially support a harassment claim, especially the call to my mother containing demonstrably false statements about my finances. He drafted a cease and desist letter, $350, addressed to my ex. The letter outlined the specific behaviors, noted that the statements to my parents were knowingly false, and stated that any further contact with me, my family, or my colleagues would result in a formal harassment complaint. The letter was sent certified mail Friday afternoon. I also sent one final email to my ex. Not angry, not long, just clear. I've offered you the full $9,200 wedding fund. That offer stands for 30 days. After that, I'll split it 50-50 as originally contributed. The itemized list of relationship expenses you sent me has no legal basis, and I won't be paying it. A cease and desist regarding contact with my family and friends has been sent to your address. I wish you well, and I'd like no further communication. Saturday morning, I got a response. Not from her, from her father, her dad. She showed me the cease and desist. I want you to know I had no idea she called you parents. That was wrong. I told her that. She doesn't want to hear it right now, but I told her. For what it's worth, I always respected your commitment to your family. Not many people your age think like that. I'm sorry it ended this way. I responded, thank you, sir. I'm sorry too. And that was it from the reasonable corner of her family. Her mother, naturally, was not in the reasonable corner. She had someone, I'm guessing a friend, because the number wasn't familiar, text me Sunday morning saying, lawyers won't protect you from karma, and what goes around comes around for people who break women's hearts. I screenshot it, forwarded it to my attorney, and went to my parents' house for dinner. My mom made the stew. It's this recipe she brought from the old country. She makes it with lamb and root vegetables, and this spice blend she mixes herself. The whole house smells like it for hours. We ate at the little table in their kitchen, the same table I did homework on when I was 8. My mom reached across the table at one point and put her hand on mine and said, "You are a good boy. You were always a good boy." She still calls me boy. I'm 30. My dad mostly ate in silence, But at the end of the meal, he said, "The new transfer amount. It's too much." Me, "It's done, Dad." My dad, "At least let me fix your car brakes. I heard them squeaking last time." Me, "Deal." That's the trade we've always had. I send money. He insists on doing something in return. Last year, he reorganized my entire garage. The year before that, he built me a shelf. The man cannot accept a gift without returning labor. I've given up arguing about it. I drove home that night, and the apartment was very quiet. No wedding binder on the counter. No catering estimates. No engagement ring in the drawer. She'd taken it when she left, and I told her to keep it. The closet had a little more space in it. The bathroom was just mine. I sat on my couch and ate leftover stew from a Tupperware my mom had packed. She always packs Tupperware, it's non-negotiable, and I thought about the whole thing from start to finish. Here's what I keep coming back to. She wasn't a villain from day one. We had good years. She made me laugh. She remembered my coffee order and surprised me with it on bad days. She was good at her job and proud of it, and I was proud of her for it. But somewhere under all of that was this bedrock belief that my parents' suffering was their own fault, that surviving a war and rebuilding in a foreign country and spending every dollar on their kid was just not saving well enough. And that belief didn't appear out of nowhere on a random Tuesday. It was always there. I just wasn't listening for it. The cease and desist worked. No further contact from her or her friends. Her mom's proxy text was the last thing. My attorney said if anything else came in, we'd file formally, but he doubted it would go further. People usually get serious when a lawyer's letterhead shows up. The wedding fund. She accepted the full $9,200 through her attorney about a week later. No counterclaims. No itemized bill. Just a quiet acceptance. I suspect her father had something to do with that. My $2,000 transfer went through on the first of the month like clockwork. My mom texted me a photo of a new pair of work boots she'd bought my dad. Good ones, waterproof, insulated, proper arch support. He'd apparently been wearing his old ones around the house and yard, even after retirement, because they still had life in them. They did not still have life in them. They had duct tape and stubbornness in them. I looked at that photo for a long time. New boots. That's what $2,000 a month buys. Not just bills and property taxes and dental work. It buys my dad new boots when he's finally too tired to argue about whether he needs them. My ex wanted me to stop that. She wanted me to look at those two people and say, "You should have planned better." I set the photo as my phone background. Not forever, probably, but for now.